Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Julia. I'm the owner of Painful Dance, and today we are talking all about grip strength. I have been getting asked this question about grip for the longest time, ever since I posted videos of myself spinning with one hand with all my body weight over on the side of the pole. I don't know if you know what that move is, but it does require quite a bit of strength, as most viewers are probably pretty aware of just watching it. Now, this video is not going to be a quick fix, okay? I'm gonna give you my preferences right now as far as like grip aid goes, which I'm sure you've probably read or heard about at this point if you are struggling with your grip. My two favorites, iTac, dry hands. That's all I'm gonna mention about grip. Today, this video is about training for the long term, getting strength in your grip. Okay, this takes a little bit of work and some consistency, but if you want pull in your life for the long term and you want to tap into more advanced movements on the pole, you need grip strength. You need to know how to tap into this, right? For injury, so you can be more powerful, stronger, have better control. It bleeds into so many things on the pole, and it is not addressed nearly enough as it needs to be. So if that interests you, you should watch this video, you should subscribe, and let me know if it helps you, because that helps me create more content like this. So let's get started. So it should come to no surprise of any of you that pole dancing requires an intense amount of strength, right? And surprisingly enough, if you have a good grip right here, this can actually enhance the amount of strength that you're able to tap into on or even off the pole. A lot of times when you think about conditioning for pole dancing, you only think about the main players of pole, which are gonna be like the biceps, your core. A lot of students tell me, oh, I just need to be stronger in order to do more on the pole. But we fail a lot of times to pay attention to a huge thing, which is the actual part of our body that is attaching us to the pole. But when you have a strong and secure grip on the pole, instantly you will feel stronger and you will have more of an ability to tap into more advanced movement. And this even applies if you're doing something in the gym. So let's say that you're doing lunges. If you've ever had lunges and your setup is kind of insecure, maybe you feel a little bit off balance, you probably were not able to push up as much weight. If you go back in and try doing lunges, but you have a secure stance going on, you're able to lift way, way more. If you want to instantly prove this to yourself as well, go ahead and open your hand and try flexing your bicep, okay? It can flex, right? Now, if I engage with my grip, if I close my fist and I flex that bicep, I feel a whole lot more intensity in this motion. I feel stronger instantly. That's what I'm trying to prove to you guys right here. This grip, neurologically, this taps into so much strength. My whole body feels secure, and it can just be way more intense in its intention to move things with force. So then the question arises, well, how do we strengthen the grip if we feel like we have a crappy amount of strength there, right? So surprisingly enough, we actually do not have any muscles found in our fingers. It's all tendons, but there are a bunch of muscles that are found in the forearm and the palm area of the hand. So if these are strengthened, then the ability of the tendons of the finger and the ability for them to grab onto objects and make you have that secure feeling can increase. So the question is not how do we increase the intensity that our fingers are able to grab onto objects like a pole, but rather how do we increase the strength of the forearm and the hand that attach to the tendons. So just diving into the forearm first, there are two main players in the forearm when it comes to grip strength. We have a flexor, so that's when my hand is moving in towards the bicep, and then there's the extender here. And these two movements here work together when you're trying to grip an object. So equally contributing to closing your hand around an object. And there have been multiple EMG studies showing that both of the flexor and extensor movements equally contribute to the closing and the amount of pressure that you're able to apply when you're trying to make a fist in a grip. Then in the forearm, we also have our Pronator and Supinator. So these would apply to movements where you're twisting. So if you've ever had like a screwdriver and you're twisting into wood and you feel all that burning happening, so that's this movement here. So in pull, this movement would be the twisted grip that we would find, which is really, really common to have an injury happen, because sometimes, and I'm speaking from personal experience, you will kind of crash land on that twisted grip. So there's a lot of force instantly applied in that twisted position. And if the grip is not strong enough held in that position, that's where injuries happen. You can snap the tendons, which is what I did, and you can sprain muscles, all those little muscles in there that are just not accustomed to all of that force being applied to them, or at least you can't resist that very well. So really important to train this motion as well. So when thinking about how to best go about increasing grip strength, we can incorporate strength training. The dumbbell curls are a bit boring, but a pretty low-key way to throw in some forearm training into your workout program. An alternative and more challenging alternative may be hanging from a bar and completing the same movement. These can be done at an overhand or underhand grip. The muscles within the hands can be simultaneously trained. With the forearms, you just need to be a bit more focused on crushing things for the hands. Become your inner Hulk and ball up those fists. You could use a tennis ball, those hand clampy things in the gym. You can do farmer's walks, which have so many benefits. And there's also dead hangs from a pull-up bar, which are also so awesome for you. Now, the key with strength training for your grip is we want to go in training harder than what we actually need. So what I mean by that is we've got our 45 millimeter pulls here, right? When you're going in and you're training for pull, you don't want grip to be the main thing holding you back. So when you're specifically training for grip, whether that's at the gym, at a playground, or you could even use your pull to accomplish your strength training, you want to make it so that you're on fire and you're burning when you're training your grip, but when you're going to pull and you're playing around, practicing, making your videos or whatnot, that's not the thing that's holding you back in your training. And this is totally possible using the principles of strength training. And one of those principles is progressive overload. And progressive overload, it's a little bit more simple than it sounds. It's just every time that you go back into specifically training for something, right? So I'm training my grip, trying to increase the strength in my forearms and my palms. I am increasing the volume, the intensity that I am loading onto this area every single time that I go in and I go back and train with it. So let's look at a good example of progressive overload for the dead hangs, which are much harder than they appear for most. You'll start with an assisted bar hang, and this could be with a resistance band. Once you can do 3 of these for 60-second intervals, the next week you could do 3 sets without any assistance for 60 seconds. The next training session, attempt to use a towel as you hang, maybe for 2 sets of 60 seconds. Then the next time with one arm, which can really call upon your shoulders to assist. Major player in pull. You can make this program harder or easier depending on where you stand strength-wise currently. If you're still a little bit confused on how to plan out a progressive overload plan for your grip strength, down below I've linked a PDF of a simple program that you can follow for a few weeks for absolute beginners or people that are a little bit more advanced even. So feel free to give that a download if you want a good example of what a program would look like for that. So going back to your dead hangs, you could also play with your finger position. Rock climbers will do this frequently during their climbs where they're holding their body weight just through their fingertips. Be extremely careful as this does put a massive strain on your tendons. You can also combine your grip training in any weightlifting you do. A great example is in the deadlift. If you've done deadlifts, chances are you felt your grip fatigue pretty quickly at a higher weight. You're isometrically training your grip as you are deadlifting, as there is no concentric movement happening in the deadlift for the forearm or the hand muscles. Isometric exercises are where we are not implementing any movement, we're just holding and applying a great force. Another example of an isometric could be trying to rip a phone book in half. I know you can't do it, but the tensing in your gripping muscles will build awesome power that will translate to your pull ability. Isometrics are a lesser known form of strength training, and they are absolutely not talked enough, especially in terms of pull. There was even a study done by, I think it was the European Journey of Applied Physiology, and they studied the effects of isometric training on 13 healthy participants for grip strength specifically. After this 8-week study was done, and they all went through a series of isometric workouts for grip training for the extension here. After that study was done, all of the participants, according to the EMG studies, found a significant increase in their grip strength ability. So powerful, powerful, powerful stuff found in isometric training. And I do attest a lot of my ability to be a little bit more advanced on the pole to isometric training. A lot of pole dancing is very isometric. And again, those are just movements where we are not kind of like moving in and out of a position like a squat, coming up and out of it. It's just holding, right? Holding in those really tough spots. So we think of like an iron X, very isometric. We are holding in a completely horizontal position with all of our power. Quick side note though, with all of these exercises that I am suggesting to you, please be careful. Definitely use the principles of progressive overload. Do not load your body too much, because we are playing with the tendons in the hands, and they can very easily be injured if they are overtrained. And damaged tendons take forever to recover. I know, because I damaged them and I had to take at least 6 months off of pole dancing because of the wrist injury that I had because I ripped a tendon. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning is also the thickness of the pole that you might be dealing with. Usually, and in my studio, we only play with 45 millimeter poles, but if you've ever like been to a friend's house and they have like a 50 millimeter, it's way, way different to grip onto a pole. It's just harder to grip big things, right? If I have like a small can of soda and I grip that, okay, I can grip it, no problem. But if I have like a big can of like beans or something, I don't know, it's way harder to grip something like that. Maybe a basketball would be a better example. You can barely hold on to a basketball, right? If you've got something with a thicker diameter, it's going to be way, way harder to grip. Now that being said, we can also implement that into our progressive overload training. So if you want to kind of make anything harder to grip, and you're training for your grip specifically, you could even like wrap a towel around like a barbell, right? And that would increase that diameter, so it would make your lift harder. And then when you go back to the pole, right, a little thinner diameter, that's easy compared to the thicker diameter object that you've been gripping onto. And one thing I also want to mention is your positioning of your wrist for your grip. It's a fact that optimal grip can be found at a 45-ish degree angle, right? Flexion here of the wrist, and also just ever so slight ulnar deviation. That's this when I'm trying to move that pinky towards the outside of my wrist. So in a lot of the videos that you'll see with me hanging with one hand, my wrist is actually in that exact position because I'm trying to tap into that ultimate positioning so that I can get as much help as I actually need when I am in that position, because that is a hard move to nail and I need all of the help I can get when I'm in it. So in saying all of this, a bodybuilder or a weightlifter would probably completely scoff at the idea of training for grip, but our sport is pole and we do require a crazy amount of grip strength, again, which I do not think is talked about nearly as much as it should be in the pole community. We just kind of tend to lean on these like quick fixes of using a fan, wiping our pole a million times. I remember when I was first struggling with pole dancing, I would have like a literal ritual where I'd have to put on grip, wipe down the pole with a wet towel, then a dry towel. I'd like circle around the pole 5 times before I'd actually want to even complete a move, because I had all these like psychological blocks in my mind about me not being able to attempt a trick because my grip was bad. Now I specifically go into the gym, or when I'm weight training like legs or something, it's so easy to just like for a couple extra seconds, squeeze. That's the isometric exercise that I'm talking about. If you just implement it bit by bit in your training, if you become a little bit more mindful of its importance and how it ties in so tightly with pole dancing, I promise you, you won't have to be using a million fans and wiping down your pole 50 times. And it's just going to make your experience pole dancing so much more enjoyable, and you're gonna be able to actually nail those harder moves again, because once you feel secure in that grip, your muscles are able to engage much more powerfully. Your brain feels secure so that you can really impact with a lot of intensity on the pole. I could talk all day about grip strength and how important it is, and why every pole dancer should definitely be working on it. So that's this video. I hope that helps and you can take those tips and implement them in your training. So let me know what you guys thought about the video. If it was helpful, give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe. But until then, I will see you on the next one.